Welcome to the Cool Instruments for Hep Cats podcast and the world of creating musical sounds, where every note has a story. In this podcast, we delve into the fascinating realm of unusual and intriguing musical instruments. From the depths of history to the cutting edge of innovation, we'll explore the instruments that have, or will, push the boundaries of what we consider music. Join us on a journey of discovery as we uncover the secrets of the world's most fascinating instruments, the people who play them, and the music they create. Now here is your host, Dr. Donald Rickert.
Let's talk about strings. What do you have on there right now?
Well, right now, let me take a look.
String-wise.
So, right now, I have the middle three. So, basically, all the strings on this instrument right now are viola strings. So, everything is tuned down a fourth. So, the middle three, I have olive, Perastro olive,
Okay.
viola strings. So, this would be the A string, which is actually the D string. It's a viola D string tuned down a fourth.
Right.
And the D string is a viola G tuned down a fourth. And this the G string is a viola C tuned down a fourth. And this one is a viola F string tuned down a fourth to a C. This one is a the same company.
Super sensitive, right?
Super sensitive, yeah. It's Sensicore. So this is a string. I think it's designed for an electric instrument. It might actually be.
Well, it gets used on those six-string instruments, those six-string violas.
The six-string instruments.
Yeah.
So
And
the other string that works nicely, and it's I like these because they're affordable. The other string that works nicely on as a C string is the just a helicore C for a 1/8 size cello works nicely.
Yeah,
what I like about it is it's a very thin string, so it doesn't interfere with the playability of the G. Like I find this string is actually a little thick. I think it has a nicer sound than the helicore, but the helicore is really nice because it makes the G string a lot easier to play. If you can, because the bridges, the angle, it's easier to access the G. It's not as in between. Kind of there's more clearance on either side of the string.
yeah.
And then for the E string, I think this is a Corda, Perastro Corda, viola A string tuned down a fourth for the E. So, and I've used other combinations. I've used so basically I have these are all gut strings, the top four, and then this is it's a synthetic
Perlon, nylon, yeah.
And I've used Perastro Gold, the Eva Perazzi Gold. I've used like the green Eva Perazzi like regular. Those are really nice too. And I've used all helicore also. That's also very nice. But I think the Eva Perazzis and then the olives work nicely, because the olives is a gut string. I really didn't have a lot of experience with gut strings prior to playing Violoncello da Spalla. So it's been interesting. I find that they actually last a lot longer. Because the tension, especially on the Violoncello da Spalla, the tension is a lot lower. So they really don't get stretched that much, and they don't lose the flexibility like a synthetic string will only last like maybe a couple of months if you're lucky. But I've had these strings on here for quite a while, like probably like these strings have probably been on this instrument for about 18 months.
Wow.
and I think they still sound good. It wouldn't occur to me to change them. I mean, this one, the silver gets a little tarnished, so probably if I had a concert coming up, I would probably change them. But
yeah, I know. Hold the thing up so we can see by the nut. I think you have not the bridge, the nut. Oh, so okay, I'm not seeing much silk on the strings. Did you peel the silk away?
No, I didn't.
Because they're
the
extra long
does come over
strings.
the nut on some of them, but it doesn't. So this is where the D is. So I'm really, and that's a D flat on the C string. So I'm not really my finger wouldn't be touching the silk.
Yeah.
So.
Yes,
So yeah, the silks don't really interfere with the playing. I mean, when you first install them, they are a little bit further down, but then they quickly stretch up. But I haven't found any. Yeah.
Yeah, when I've used various viola strings, I just actually, I cut the silk off. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's good stuff.
Yeah, one thing, the only problem sometimes with using viola strings is that the D, there are some brands that don't quite make it to the peg. Or they barely make it. This one's fine. But it's definitely not wound around as many times. It's not wound around very many times, but it works pretty well because I have the geared pegs.
Right.
So I'm not like I feel like if this was a standard peg, I may have more of an issue with using the viola string because
right.
it could slip more easily. But I think having a geared peg and overall having geared pegs on this is definitely the way to go. It may not be like historically correct, but
I used to have it. I had it as an option at first, and literally nobody opts to stick with traditional pegs.
Yeah, it's definitely because just imagine if you're holding it like this and then wrestling with these strings. Right. I mean, when that was one of the things when I was borrowing Iizuka's Spalla, it was very hard to tune. Like I had to take it off and tune it.
Right.
These are, and knowing that it wasn't even when I ordered this from you, it's we're doing geared pegs. So they're good. But one of the advantages to using viola strings is sometimes the cello, especially like if I use a cello C string, an eighth size cello is quite a bit bigger, so there's a lot to wind around. There are some strings I even just cut. Like I'll just take a wire cutter and cut it because it's just too many. Like I'll be turning this peg for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean we can talk offline about I actually unwind the windings if I'm using cello strings, and then I've used various ways, but linen saturated with epoxy to wrap around so it does not unravel. But even just using super glue, where you cut the winding works, but you got to get that winding off there because it's just too much string in the peg box otherwise.
Yeah. I suppose it could damage the if there's too much string, it could damage. But I think I've figured out how to install the strings well. So,
have you used any of the ones that that get talked about a lot, like the Thomastik Violoncello da Spalla set or the Aquila?
I did use Aquila. I did use that. Those were very nice. I did have trouble tuning the C string to the right pitch. I couldn't. I could get it to. I think they may just be designed for Baroque tuning. Like I couldn't get it to a regular C, but So I can use those with a Baroque tuning, but I tend not to. I'm not really a Baroque player, so you know, and because I'm making a lot of garage band projects and playing with my students, so I'm pretty much tuning this at standard pitch. I don't use those, but they are. I mean, they're high quality strings, and they're very reasonably priced as well. I would say. Yeah,
and they have improved the gut strings because the C's were breaking a lot at the nut. They were very brittle, the ones that I was using for a while, but yeah.
I haven't used the Thomastik. They're very expensive. I feel like I'm not going to spend that much money. I don't know. Might sound terrible, but I'm not going to spend that much money for a set.
You're going to spend $700 for a set of strings, and you can't even buy a spare.
I'm not going to spend $700. I mean, it's just not like I just can't see doing that when there are other options available. I mean, they may be really good. I mean, I'm sure they're really good. I like Thomastik products. I mean, I use their pies on the violin.
Right.
I've talked to people about it, and I understand it's a niche product, and they have to change their machines to make a certain amount.
Right.
But I mean, I just don't understand how other companies can make, like Aquila can make the strings affordably. I don't really understand like how Thomastik
and they're making a synthetic core string now, and then there's the Aquila and Boissoir strings, the silk core, and you can also get gut strings.
Those are definitely reasonably priced.
I know.
Everybody, that's what I mean. I don't want to like make a condemnation of. I think Thomastik is a great company. I mean, I have a lot of respect for. I enjoy using their products. Nobody's really explained to me why it is that those synthetic Spalla strings are so expensive. When there are so many other alternatives that are very reasonably priced.
Right.
I just can't, the Boissoir, I mean, there are a lot, and some of these I haven't even tried yet, but, and then sort of my Frankenstein arrangements of using viola strings, they work pretty well. I just can't see spending that much money on a set of strings. I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to be sorry. I'm just kind of trying to maintain my objectivity, but yes, let's suffice it to say, I do think that $700 is too much to pay for 5 strings, but
I will continue. I use pies. I mean, they're great.
Right.
They're excellent. It's an excellent company, excellent quality, and I'm sure the Spalla strings are of the highest quality. So it's just too pricey.
Yep.
Cool Instruments for Hep Cats is brought to you by Donrickert Musical Instruments, designers and makers of bespoke stringed instruments. All music clips were either recorded in the making of the podcast and played by the guest or guests, who have granted permission to use the clips, or otherwise, used with permission or in accordance with fair use regulations. The music for the intro and outro sequences is performed by the group Attire on jaw harp and djembe and is used with written permission.